Hello and welcome to the first Mandala Arts crochet video. I'm quite new to this, so I hope everything will go okay, but please bear with me and we'll see how we get along together. So the idea of this first video is to introduce you or get you started on crochet if you're new to it. So I thought I'd do a little basic instruction to talk to you a little bit about crochet hooks and the yarn that you're going to need and the tools you're going to need to get started. So first and foremost, the most important thing you're going to need is your crochet hook. Now, if you're a knitter, you probably know about crochet anyway, but the difference between knitting and crochet is that with knitting you use 2 needles and with crochet it's 1. Crochet is related to net making and tatting, and the hook is what manipulates the yarn. So this is your main and very important tool. Now they come in all shapes and sizes. This particular one is aluminium. It's a 6.5. I like using these because they're nice and smooth and the yarn flows over them. But they are a little bit cold and some people don't like that. So there are alternatives. So this one here is bamboo, very lightweight, size 5. So again, you will come across wooden ones as well. We have a plastic one here. This is a very old one that's been lurking around. Very lightweight, but not one I particularly like using. This is a metal one. I think it might be stainless steel or aluminium, but again an old one that sort of appeared in the collection. You can see that's got a slightly different sort of hook on it. Also I've got a bone one, so that might be something that some people feel a bit weird about using, but that's one of the things that used to be used traditionally, so you've got that one too. This one is a really large size. It's the top end of the scale, and this is made from acrylic. Very useful if you want to do a really chunky piece of work. I use it mostly for doing working with t-shirt yarn and very super chunky yarn. And finally, we have these type of hooks. There's lots of different designs out there. They have a silicone handle, sometimes known as ergonomic, because they're very comfortable and soft and warm to the touch to use. There's lots of different variety of designs out there. I don't particularly like them because I like my yarn to flow over the hook, and this feels like a bit short for me, but many people swear by them, so that might be another consideration. You can buy them in sets or you can buy them individually. So I think if you're a beginner, you need to have some of the middle-sized ones, which would be around a 4.5 or a 5, something like that. But if you buy a set, you'll get a range of sizes anyway. The other thing I wanted to talk about briefly as well is how you hold your hook. There's lots of other videos out there. And everybody seems to hold their hook and their yarn differently. But I think there's 2 main ways you hold your hook. One of them is like this, which is I would call a pen hold. Or the other alternative is to hold it like this, which is I would call a knife hold. Either's fine. I use both actually. If I'm doing something that's very tough, then it's good to have a little bit of welly behind it, but if it's something more delicate, then I'll hold it like this. It's up to you. Now the other thing that's quite important is how you hold your yarn. Again, lots of people have tried their own variations. I don't think there's any definite rules about this. I learnt how to crochet a very long time ago when I was in my teens, and the book I learnt from showed me a particular technique. I like it and this is what I use, but I think it's quite useful because it helps you to work with the tension a little bit, and it also means that you've got your fingers free to hold your work. So I wrap it round my little finger, under my ring finger, over the back of my first 2 fingers, and then I can hold the yarn or the work here or with my other hand, and I can manipulate the hook across it. So that might be a bit complicated for you, and it will take time to get used to it, but wrap it around my little finger, under my ring finger, across my top 2 fingers, and I've got it ready to start. So that the yarn I've just been showing you as well, to go on to the next bit, is actually, that's double knitting yarn, very common in the UK, and I think it's used obviously in the USA as well. That's used for a lot of projects. If you're going to do granny squares or anything quite lightweight, this is perfect for that. You can also use, and I quite like using this one, this is Aran yarn, and this is known as worsted weight in the USA. Slightly thicker than the double knitting, as you can probably see, but also really good for doing granny squares and blankets, those sort of projects too. There are lots of other weights of yarn, but then one of the next more extreme ones perhaps is this one, which is I think a super chunky. This one, I tend to use this for making things like baskets and things which I'd like to be really firm. You can get super chunky, chunky, and lots of in between as well. But this is quite a nice yarn to use for big chunky projects basically. But I think if you're starting out, I would suggest that you get either an Aran or a double knitting yarn. They're available everywhere. Get them on the internet and get them in the shops as well. The only other things that you're going to need for your projects are a darning needle, which is one of these, quite a big chunky needle with a blunt end, and also scissors. Very, very important. So that gives you an idea of the materials you're going to need and the tools you're going to need to get started. So I hope that's been some help to you, and I hope to see some of the projects that we get involved in together in the future. So for now, thank you very much and goodbye.